Mafra is a city and a municipality in the district of Lisbon, on the west coast of Portugal, and part of the urban agglomeration of the Greater Lisbon subregion. The population in 2011 was 76,685, in an area of 291.66 square kilometers. It is mostly known for the sumptuous Mafra National Palace, built in the baroque style. The Mafra National Palace also inspired Portuguese Nobel Prize laureate José Saramago to write his novel Baltasar and Blimunda. Other points of interest around the municipality include the National Mafra, an enclosed wildlife and game reserve, and Rei-artur's World Surf Reserve, the second in the world. History. The earliest archaeological remnants were discovered in Mafra date to early settlement this region in the Neolithic period. In Sixosa, civil parish of Incarnacao, in an area that was once a beach, there were archaeological remnants from the Paleolithic period that indicate one of the oldest human presences in Europe. Similar human vestiges were discovered along the beach of São Julião, including specifically shell mounds produced by Mesolithic communities in the parish of Carvoeira. Although many of these remnants have been discovered submersed along the coast, they have been dated to 7000 BC. During the Neolithic, the first agro-pastoral communities began to appear, permanenting in small groups in strategically defensible locations. This includes sites in Hanover, such as Penedo de Lexman, occupied during the final part of the Neolithic, Chalcolithic and Bronze Age. Other structures from the Neolithic, today missing, such as the castle of Challeros or Dolmens, whose name remains the only proof there are existence, such as Antas Azuera and Antas Gradle. In addition to the Penedo de Lexum, also in the Serra de Socorro and Titu area as funerary tombs from the Chalcolithic. Tombstones, altars, tombs, coins, bins, ceramics and glass from the Roman era have been found in almost all parishes of the municipality. These date back to the 1st and 4th century, including the Roman road connecting Sintra and Peniche, which crosses Mafra, intersecting the Challeros, Mafra, Ericeira, Pacodrillas and S. Domingos da Fanga da Refiocut. In Challeros and Carvoeira there are two bridges constructed by the Romans. One of these, a bridge in Santo Isidoro that was part of the Sintra-Peniche accessway, is a reflection of the area's Romanization. An important agriculture center during Roman occupation, anthropologists have discovered Roman coins of the eras of Augustus, Claudius and Magnus Maximo. Although it is unclear the area's importance within Aleppo, its agricultural contributions may have contributed to its strong settlement during the period. Wine, oil and vegetables were easily commercialized across the accessway and along the rivers of Challeros, Ilhas and Safarujo, which were navigable until the Middle Ages. The occupation by the Visigoths occurred after the 5th century, until the arrival of the Moors in 711, with few remnants discovered. An inscription, encountered in the parochial church of Challeros, a frieze in Alcanca and Paleo-Christian funerary tomb, adapted as a bunk within the Quinta da Corredura in Mafra, are the only current manifestations of these peoples. It is certain that the built-up urban area of Mafra was once a fortified community, with the area of Rua das Tacidas as being the best example of the walls still being visible. The limits of the castle, which was implanted on the Neolithic settlement, was successively reoccupied until the Iron Age, and taking up the entirety of the old village. This includes the space limited in the east by the Lago Coronel Brito Dito Gorjao, the south by the Rua das Tacideiras, west by the Palacio dos Marqueses de Ponte Lima and north by the Rua Mafra de Trás de Castelo, a dense forest that existed until the 20th century in Quinta da Cerca in this area that protected and sheltered the settlement from winds. Kingdom although present until 1147, when the area was taken by Afonso Henriques. Remnants from the Moorish occupation are rare. There are suggestions that many of the churches were once mosques, such as the Matriz Church of Chaleros, the Church of Santo Andre and the Sanctuary of Serra de Socorro. The origin of the local toponymy Mafra is unclear, but evolved from variations of Mafera, Malfora and, later, Mafora. Some suggest its origin came from the Turanian Greater, a female fertility cult that may have existed along the rim of the early village. Others suggest that it developed from the Arabic Mafera, which means pit, which presumed that the location was implanted within a pit, a fact that was disproved by the Arabist David Lopes. The town is, in fact, located on a hill, with two ravines limiting the area around it. In 1189–1190 the village was donated by King Sancho I to the Bishop of Silves, D. Nicolau, who received the first foral a year later. This foral was followed by charters to Chaleros in 1195, Ericeira in 1229 and Vila-Augradel in 1327. During the Manuelan era many of the national forals were reissued, especially after the 11th and 15th century. Between 1513 and 1516, King Manuel I issued a new foral to Mafra, Ericeira and Chaleros, and in 1519 conceded a foral to Enxara dos Cavaleiros, while confirming a foral to Gradel. During the Manuelan reforms, the municipalities that received these forals constructed pillories are required to refurbish their administrative markers. In the census of the 18th of September 1527, there was an estimated 191 residents, of which only 4 couples lived within the village. The reign of Manuel I was instrumental in influencing the religious architecture of the region. It is present in many of the churches, such as Nossa Senhora da Oliveira in Sobral da Abilera, Nossa Senhora de Reclamador in Chaleros, Nossa Senhora da Conceição in Igreja Nova, São Miguel in Milorado, Santa Eulalia in Santo Estevão das Galas, or São Silvestre in Gradel. These architectural details are apparent in the doorways, vaulted ceilings and baptismal fountains, symbols of judicial power. These markers became posts for notices, orders or commands from court, and were later refurbished, repositioned and lost over time. When, in 1717, King John V began construction of the Mafra Palace, Mafra was barely a few hamlets that huddled around the monument. The era was also marked by the construction of a garden and the establishment of the Royal Hunting Park. Building projects continued throughout the reigns of Kings Joseph I, John VI and Ferdinand. Yet William Beckford, writing in August 1787, noted that Mafra was of little interest, and nothing more than a few rooftops nestled in mountains. During the 19th century, the population began to grow around the palace, but this remained generally a rural community. José mentions in 1936 echoed similar indications of Mafra in writing about Old Rua dos Arquipistas, noting, Mafra offers nothing interesting and looks more like a hinterland village with its huts and ruined portals, typical backyard, shielded with old cans. As Guilherme José Ferreira de Assunção later wrote, after a few visits, Queen Marie realized the advantages of establishing a military contingent in the convent of Mafra, which she initiated. This change transformed the region and its people, who lived in a precarious conditions of existence. After 1840, the convent was occupied by the army. By 1859, 4,000 troops would enlist in the official military boot camp established by King Pedro V. Unfortunately, the institution was abolished in the following year, when 94 recruits died from an infectious disease. But, from 1848 to 1859 and 1870 to 1873, the convent continued to house the Royal Military College. In 1887, the Infantry and Cavalry School, and a year later, in Tarpada, a firing range was established that was later frequented by King Carlos, an enthusiast of shooting. During the French invasion of Portugal in 1807, Napoleon made the Mafra Palace became headquarters and garrison. Part of the army headed for Peniche and Torres Vedras under orders from General Lewison. The remaining forces garrisoned in the palace and convent, while the executive staff requisitioned homes in the village. This lasted 9 months, until the 2nd of September 1807, when British forces were able to extricate the French from the positions. Meanwhile, Portuguese engineers, allied to British forces, constructed a system of fortresses north of Lisbon, to secure the defence of the capital and expel the French. The lines of Torres Vedras, as they were known, passed through the municipality of Mafra, and were constructed after 1809. Of the 156 fortresses, 48 were located within this municipality, and represented the second line of defense, including sites in Malveira, Gradel, Ribamar, Carvoeira, Mafra and Ericeira. Only vestiges of these fortes and redoubts remain, unrecognizable or difficult to access. Within the Tarpada there were fortes in Sunival, Milharica, Juncal and Silverio, while a group of forts followed the left bank of the Ribeira de Safarujo to Ribamar. In the south, the last line of defense, should the French breach the defenses, were the forts of Carvoeira, São Julião and Zambujal. Republic. On the 5th of October 1910, the Mafra Palace was also the scene for an episode of the Republican Revolution that occurred in Lisbon. King Manuel II, fleeing from the coup in Lisbon, took refuge and overnighted in the Palace of Mafra. The next day they abandoned the palace by car, travelling with his mother and grandmother to the shores of Ericeira, where the royal yacht Amelia would take them on to Gibraltar in exile. Later that month, on the 20th of October, a group of monarchists gathered in the Largo de João with arms, where they walked to the infantry school, installing themselves in the convent, cutting the telephone wires and telegraph cables. The revolt was easily put down by the military, but resulted in a collection of hundreds of people in the local jails. In 1911, in the Deposito de Remonta e Garanhos, which was later replaced by the military equestrian school in 1950, and 7 years later, the Military Center for Physical Education, Equestrianism and Sport. Today, it continues to function as the Military Center for Physical Education and Sport since 1993. In the Largo General Con Januario and the Infantry School in the Convent of Mafra. Geography. Administratively, the municipality is divided into 11 civil parishes, twin towns, sister cities. Mafra is twinned with Frefel, Côtes d'Armor, France; Lyman, Baden-Württemberg, Germany; Mindelo, São Vicente, Cape Verde. Economy. It is mainly rural, with some tourist activity centered in the town Mafra and especially in the seaside town of Ericeira, which has become a key destination for national and international surfers. After the completion of the A8 motorway, linking the eastern part of the municipality to the center of Lisbon, commuter population has increased substantially. Transport transportation. The municipality of Mafra is served by a road network that includes national highways and secondary municipal roadways, permitting access to the municipalities of Torres Vedras, Sintra, Leões, Sobral and Monte Agrico in Lisbon. In addition, the municipality is served by the A8 highway, with connections to Venda de Paneiro, Malveira and Enxara dos Cavaleiros, and the A21 highway, with connections to Ericeira, Mafra Oeste, Mafra Est, Malveira and Venda de Paneiro, which have improved the movement of passengers and commerce, and consequently, the development of the region. Public transport services are handled by the companies Barraqueiro Transportes, SA, Rodoviária de Lisboa and Isidoro Duarte, with services throughout the municipality. A rail network, served by the Linha do Oeste, with stations in Mafra and Malveira, as well as flag stops in Alguém como in Haas and Jeromelo, providing intra-urban and regional passarema and cargo services. Gallery.